Hi, my name's Lisa, and I am not a snake expert, but I'm a person who takes care of 4 ball pythons. And this is Nanners, who did not eat last night, so he was able to come out. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about ball python feeding. When we were new at having ball pythons, we had so many questions regarding feeding strikes and what to feed and how often and what size. And I'm just hoping to, talk a little bit about those things. So Nanners here is, let's see, I think he's about 3 years old now. He is a banana ball python. Is one of those that really doesn't move a lot when you take him out. He'll just kind of sit and hang out. So our other snakes seem to like to explore a lot more. Nanners, not so much. So first I'm going to talk about feeding strikes because that's where we're at with Nanners right now. So it's been about 4 weeks since he's eaten, and that's okay. As long as he is drinking, he's not losing too much weight, he's doing his normal snake behavior, then we don't really worry about it. The longest we've had a feeding strike was Artemis, and Artemis went, I think it was right around 5 months, and he only lost, I want to say it was 5 or 10 grams. We kept a pretty close track of his weight loss, and he was fine. He just did not want to eat. Now, all of our snakes started on frozen thawed rats. When they were tiny, they were on the little rat pups, and then, as they grew, the size grew of the prey. However, we did find that one of the things that helped us is when they were in a feeding strike, we would offer them the same usual food that they tend to prefer for a few weeks. And then if they were still on a feeding strike at that time, we would offer the opposite. So in other words, he's been on mice for a little bit because of a feeding strike last year. It's kind of interesting. They all kind of went through this feeding strike right around the same time, and I almost wonder if it's because we have a female and maybe it has to do with breeding season. I'm not really sure. We keep them separated. We don't want any snake babies or anything, but their feeding strikes seem to kind of coincide together. We've noticed where we'll have at least 2 snakes on a feeding strike, or even 3 at a time. However, Nanners is the only one right now. The other 3 are eating every week, no problem, like champs. So we are feeding them weekly right now only because since the feeding strike we had a year ago, we ended up offering them mice and they ended up eating right away, and it's like they just kind of switched the prey. It was really weird, but ball pythons are just kind of strange creatures sometimes. So I did offer Nanners a frozen thawed small rat last night, and he was not having any part of it. However, Artemis ate it, no problem, and Artemis has not had a rat in over a year, so that was kind of funny. So when Artemis had a feeding strike last year, and it was several months, and I was really worried, except for that I was weighing him and his weight was fine. He really wasn't losing very much. Like I said, I think in the end he only lost like 5 or 10 grams, which is not very much for a ball python of his size. He's an adult. And he's been on mice ever since, just what he's wanted. So now I'm kind of wondering if we're switching him back to rats. I may offer him a rat, but because he ate a rat this time and it is bigger than a mouse, I'm probably not going to feed him for about 2 weeks again. Soup is also on mice right now, so he's been getting 2. They're the largest size mice that we can get. He's eating 2 of those every week and a half or so, and he's also an adult size ball python. And then Tofu is also just an amazing eater. She rarely has food strikes, but she had one last year as well. And she was also on rats, and then we switched her to mice. She started eating again, and now I may start offering her rats again. I'm not sure. They say that they provide a little bit more nutritional value for ball pythons. I do find that we just keep both in stock, and we kind of take it feed by feed with them because they seem to just kind of do their own thing sometimes. So I definitely want to warn you, whoever's watching this, I did get some footage last night of the 3 ball pythons that did eat, and definitely either fast forward or just turn it off right now if you're not comfortable seeing that. Again, we feed frozen thawed, so they're not live prey, but it is something eating a mouse basically, or a rat. And it's kind of funny when you think about it, because we as people, I would say the majority of us eat eggs, milk, meats, whatnot, whatever our diet choice is. And we just don't see the whole product like you see with a rat or a mouse. So really it's kind of silly, but I don't know. I actually personally, I find it really interesting when they eat, just the way that they kind of are able to unlock those jaws and grab onto that prey and kind of slowly, eat it, and then they put their neck up and they kind of swallow. And you can actually see it going down their body. It's very interesting. So here's some footage of that. But first I'll show you Nanners a little closer up if you want to see what he looks like. Yeah, he just doesn't move much. He's just kind of slow. He is the Eeyore of the ball pythons in our house. even in his enclosure, it's funny because he just doesn't move a lot. He comes out a few times a day, and you'll see him kind of wandering around, especially at night. They do like to come out mainly at night, but he just doesn't wander quite as much as the other snakes. So I actually take him out probably once or twice a week and just kind of let him hang out. And I remember on the first food strike that they had, I was so worried that they were going to starve to death. And apparently, you know, that can happen. I mean, I definitely heard of that happening, but ours, they stay hydrated, their weight stays fine, and they just kind of start eating one day. So, you know, if your snake does go on a strike, just weigh them, make sure they're hydrated, you know, make sure they're acting okay. So as far as size, like what size to feed a snake, if you look at the girth of a snake, you know, like the fattest part, they say, you know, smaller than that round, as far as like the mouse or the rat, is okay to feed the snake. But there are tons of charts online that will tell you like how many grams approximately for the prey per the grams of the snake, or even the age. I've seen that correlated. So that really helped us out a lot. You know, like I said, now the ones that are eating mice, they're definitely eating smaller around than they could eat, but they're just preferring mice right now. So they're getting, sometimes we'll give them 2 or we'll offer 2. And sometimes they will eat 2, other times they won't. They'll just eat 1 and then they go in their cave and they want to just rest and digest. So as far as when they eat, the day they eat, I do not take them out at all. You know, I change their water because they get a little irritated if you're in their cage after they eat. You know, they just want to be left alone to digest, which takes a few days for snakes. So I try to change their water in the morning and then just leave them alone. And then after they feed, then that's it. I do not touch them for 2 days. They stay in their enclosure, except for him because he didn't eat. So one of the things that I find useful is to track their feeding and what they eat on an app. What is the name of it? I will put it up here somewhere, the one that I use, but I mean, there's tons of them out there, but it's real nice. You can track their weight, what they eat, when they eat, and we have found that really, really helpful, especially for the times when they're not eating, like right now, for Nanners. So I think that's pretty much it, you know, all I wanted to talk about for ball pythons and feeding. And on the video, you know, you can see how I give it to each ball python, and each of them preferred a little bit differently. There's some of them that really like to strike and they want the prey kind of far away and high up. And then it's funny, we have other ones like Nanners, he just wants it kind of right next to him and he kind of lazily grabs it, probably because he's kind of a lazy ball python. If you can call a ball python lazy. So, you know, so they all eat a little bit differently. They all just have kind of a different preferred method of how they eat. It's very interesting. And that can even change over time. When we got Artemis, he at first would not strike. It was so weird. He did not strike for like 6 months when we got him, but he would go up and just kind of slowly mouth his prey. Then he would start throwing it around his cage, like holding onto it, but throwing it around, like thrashing. It was really bizarre. And then he got into a pattern where he just strikes, grabs it, and then he's happy to eat it that way. And that's how he's been for probably a good year now. So I think that's it. They are just interesting little creatures. I find them fascinating, which is funny because when my daughter got her first ball python, which was Soup, our normal ball python, I was deathly afraid of them. They're the neatest creatures ever, especially you Nanners, because you just really don't move much. He is just chill to come out and watch a movie with you, relax. The other 3, not so much. They want to kind of explore and, you know, slither around like a ball python. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks. Have a good night, everyone. And I'm going to go put Mr. Nanners here away so he can get some rest. And I think Nanners has decided he wants a little towel rack time before he goes in. So he is just the funniest snake. He likes to like sit in shirts and, you know, go in your pocket if you have a pocket, and he is just too funny. And he almost looks like he's a little bit fat. Like, I know he's been refusing for a month now, but you can see he's got little rolls here when he curves. And the things you want to watch for when you have a snake that's refusing to eat is you want to look at their tailbone and make sure it's not sticking up like that way, you know, like an arch. If it is, they're probably losing weight. Also, you know, again, looking at those rolls, if they have rolls, they might even be just a little bit on the overweight side, and that is Mr. Nanners here. So I'm not real worried that he hasn't eaten in a month at this point, but what you doing, buddy? And these holes here, those are called heat pits, if you're not real familiar with ball pythons. And that is how they sense their prey. So a lot of people, it's funny, when they hold them, my daughter's like, oh, he's giving me a kiss, or she'll give them a kiss or whatever on the head. None of ours are head shy. They're all just very mellow if you touch their head and everything. But snakes, actually, if they seem like they're going to your face, you know, they kind of go kind of slowly, it's because of the heat from when you're talking coming out of your mouth. They can sense that from those heat pits, those little holes around their mouth, and that's what tells them if they find a mouse or a rat or something yummy to eat. Okay, well, hope you all have a great night. It is just crazy stormy here in Florida, so I thought, well, perfect night to get Nanners out. And oh, okay, his tongue's sticking out for a while. Sometimes they do that too. It's so funny. The first time they did it, I thought there was something wrong with them, but no, they're fine. They just sometimes stick their tongue out and leave it out.